everyone. This is Carl with Tabletop Tango, and I'm doing something that I call a tech of opportunity, where I look at something that I just kind of thought of. It was an interesting topic, and I thought it'd be neat to discuss it. And today I want to talk about how I keep track of my campaigns in OneNote. Now, this would be true for any application, so Evernote, what have you, where you have this concept of kind of tabs and then pages underneath tabs. And so I'm going to show you how I do it using this tool, and hopefully you'll find it useful. So let's go ahead and transition into it. So here's my OneNote that I use. It's my campaign template. And so you can see there's a number of tabs that I use that have different pieces of information, each set up in a way that makes it easy for me to do what I need to do while I'm playing the game. And I'll walk through each one of these. So the first thing I have is my campaign overview, which has the elevator pitch as one of the pages, kind of blank. And then I have things that I want to cover in session 0. I have things that I consider part of my social contract. And then I have things that are part of the logistics of the game. And so these are all questions that I'm going to get answered through playing or working with my players in a session 0 type of construct. And then I will capture this information, and I'll use this to go back to as I'm playing the game to make sure that I'm understand which lines and veils we have, the kind of language and what the team or what my players are looking for or interested in. And so this is something I'll actually do another video on, and I'll go through everything that's in my session 0 social contract and logistics pages that you should talk to your players about, fill in that information, and I'll do a pretty deep dive on that. It'll be my take. There's a lot of people out there who have session 0 videos or podcasts. It'll be my take. So another thing I have then is generally when you're playing the game, you rapidly need to have random names. So when the players come across that bartender and they go, well, what's his name? You can go into your list. And so I generate that list beforehand. And here's an example of a list I had in one of my games where as I was running into people who were using the names, I'd put a little note beside them. If they became major NPCs, I would delete it and copy it to my NPC tab, and then, give them more background, motivation, stats. But in general, I find that it's kind of easy to, quick take a note here and then capture it elsewhere if it becomes important. Otherwise, you've got an NPC tab or an NPC sheet for everybody who may or may not be interesting to the players. I do the same thing for places. I don't have any listed here. I do the same thing for businesses. I found this pretty cool site called namealix.com. And so for my non-fantasy game, I have kind of a cyber tech or a cyberpunk game where there's tech companies. I went ahead and I generated a whole bunch of names using that site. And so when the time comes, I can just grab one. It's TechSly and then the way they do it with the different text and everything, I can actually cut that out and use that maybe as their logo. And so you can do this for everything. And one of my games I had Greek, Russian, all the different names. For a fantasy game, obviously you could have elves, dwarves, names, that sort of thing, or from different parts. Just have them available. So when the time comes and you're in an adventure, you can just go there, grab the name, rock on. Then I have a tab for character information where I keep track of each one of the characters in the campaign, what their backstory is, what their stats are. So I have ability to look at these quickly, kind of what gear they have. If you're using something like a Roll20 or an online tool, this may not be as interesting because you can just jump in the tool and look at it anytime. But it's nice to have available. So this person had a huge backstory, but what's nice is I can go through here and, because I'm using electronic tool, I can quick highlight some of the key items in their backstory that I want to use as part of my adventures. And then I can grab them and maybe put them in my Adventures Idea tab where I kind of keep track of all these interesting things that I think of that aren't really adventures yet. So then for shops, as they're kind of like NPCs of the world, but as we have shops or companies or what have you that I use the names for that are interesting for the adventurers, then I would capture it here. And usually I have a location. The extras they might find there, like in this, you have Ma Ling there. If she's an important NPC that has her own goals and objectives, she'd also have a tab or a sheet within the NPC tab. And then also secrets, so if there's a secret to this shop or this location or an adventure hook, I'd want to capture it here. So as the players hit Ma Ling's and it becomes maybe their base of operations, some of these secrets might come out. I also kept a separate one for organizations. I keep a different tab because these are, I think they go beyond just a company. Like, for example, here is a company, the Valerium Trading Company, but it's an organization that's got secret goals and objectives. I'll be keeping notes about it as I go through the campaign. They may be secret societies or non-government agencies or something like that. And so I keep a separate tab from just a company tab or a shop tab. That's just me. Then NPCs, I mentioned, NPCs that are of note, that have their own background, their own motivations, stats that I need to keep track of, and then those interactive notes. So, the player came and, roughed up Thomas Hall at some point or saved their life. I want to keep that here so that when it comes time to go back to Thomas Hall, I've got that little note that says, oh, player had a great interaction with Thomas. He's, now super friendly to them. He's willing to do whatever it takes. And then that's kind of where I keep that. And this can be good guys or bad guys. It doesn't matter. In this case, Thomas Hall came from one of my Cyberpunk games, and he's a good guy. I don't have all his information because he had a ton of interactions with the players, but this is my template. So it's just kind of reminds me. Adventure notes, this is obviously, you need a place to keep track of what the players do, each scenario, each adventure. Very important because you need to keep things straight. And so during the gameplay, let's say you're playing online, I wouldn't go and try to fill out NPC tab org. I would just do this from the scenario. I would just be capturing. Oh, the players asked for a name. I click on random names. I grab one, drop it in here, say, oh yeah, this is who you found. And then just keep those running notes as things go. Or after the adventure's over and you're sitting back for the evening, go ahead and capture all that information. Then you can parse through it later when, you've got time and say, oh, well, now they ran into Thomas Hall. They just met him. He gave them an important piece of information. He's going to be an NPC that they're going to run into a lot. Let me create an NPC tab. Oh, they found out a secret. Okay, that is generating a new idea. I want to put that in the idea tabs or, whatever. I'm capturing that information into the other locations after the adventure is over. But of course, the adventure notes themselves are very important to keep. Places and maps, then I have just a tab where, for example, in one of my adventures, I want to keep a map of the world handy so I can quickly grab it. Obviously, I can have just an image sitting on my hard drive that I can pull up anytime or a note within like a Roll20 or something like that. But it's easier to have it just sort of here, ready to rock and roll. And I can do that for all sorts of places. So if I have a city that's got a map, that's got some interesting things, I can have that and then add notes below it. Obviously, if there's shops or stores or things like that, they might go into shops and companies. If they're organizations, they might go organizations. But here's a way that I can keep track of all the places the players visit and kind of the interesting notes about them. Adventure ideas, I keep a tab which has just got my ideas, so I create a new page every time a new idea strikes me. Like, for example, in my Cyberpunk game, I had this great idea that the characters, they were based out of Chicago. Oh, what if they had to make a run from Chicago up through Michigan to deliver something? And, in my Cyberpunk game, it's kind of lawless lands once you get outside of the city. So I just started capturing notes. Characters are asked, it's a container. It's got that black mist, which is kind of a nanotechnology that the players were running into. Expressway ends, there's gangs. So just notes that then turn into kind of a scenario which I might put more details in the adventure notes so that when I run it, I have everything I need. But this is just my idea playbook. You might even want to create a tab that's, adventures itself, and the notes are just what you take during the adventures running. But you have a place where you put together your adventures. They might be long with lots of maps, and so who knows? It might be better to do that in Word. I don't know, but this is usually sufficient for me to run an adventure. I don't need much more than that because obviously it's my adventure. I don't need to have all the details you'd have in a published one. Then I have a mooks and bestiary. So like, for example, my cyberpunk game, there's corporate security, has all their stats so that anytime I need to pull up one of those guys, I can. If I got beasts that are custom to my setting, I would put them in here. If it's like something out of a monster manual, I don't bother. You can put that in the adventure notes or something like that. But if I got custom things, I want to make sure that I have that captured. And it also then helps with, I'm not going to have a stat sheet for every NPC of a certain type. I can just put it in the mooks area. The generic corporate security guy, I am not going to have, each one of them identified. Then I capture my house rules. So anything that I have to look up that's not part of the core book. I know some people they take core book notes or things out of the core books and they put them in here for them to, the grappling rules are complicated, so I copy and paste it into here. Well, you could certainly do that. I don't. I just keep my house rules. So in my cyberpunk game, there's this concept of an nanomage. And so what I did is I put all the edges that are available so that one of the players who's playing a nanomage has an edge, I can easily look up what it is, knowing, of course, that normal edges I can just look up in the book. And then I have a miscellaneous tab, which is just generic stuff that doesn't fall into other categories. I don't know. I use this lots of times, just something comes up, I have this image that I found on the web that I thought is cool. I might throw it in kind of the miscellaneous category because it's not quite an adventure idea. It's not anything yet. It's just a thought process, and it helps me keep it organized. I also keep folders, obviously, on my hard drive that keeps track of a bunch of things. So if I've got maps, I don't always drop maps in here because it's hard to pull them out later because now they're just embedded. So that's kind of what I do. Again, this is a quick little video just to talk about how I manage campaigns. So I got my campaign overview, keep all my session 0, elevator pitch, all that stuff in there. I keep a tab where I capture random names, and there's a bunch of websites out there that have fantasy name generation or company name generation. Literally any name generator that you want to put a label to, you can find something online. And then again, place names, business names, make it easy to grab that. I always keep my character's backstory handy, and then most of the time their stats, because the backstory is important. So as things and ideas come, I can quickly pull that up, and I don't have to go into Roll20 or somewhere else to find it. Keep track of the shops, organizations, and NPCs that are important. Each adventure while the team is playing, since I play mostly online, I can keep OneNote open. I can quick take notes and capture that, and then take it and put it where it needs to go later. Keep my maps and my places. Have that adventure idea location where I can just keep capturing things. Bestiary, house rules, and then just miscellaneous garbage. So that's what I do for my campaigns. You can use this as sort of a baseline. Obviously, you probably have something else that you might want to add, but this is just how I keep track of it. It seems to work pretty well over the, many adventures that I have run in the past. So it's useful. I'll take and probably export this so that it's available so somebody can download it and use it as part of their base to start with if they're using OneNote. But again, like I said, it apply to any note-taking software that keeps track of tabs and pages, which is, I would imagine, like all of them. So that's that. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you got a little insight here. But if you've got better ideas, more power to you. Thanks a lot. This is Carl with Tabletop Tango. See you later.